Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Monday, April 12th, 2021. Welcome to Day 83. The White House put the creation of a National Police Oversight Commission on hold, despite Biden's campaign pledge to establish one within his first 100 days. Instead, the administration is moving forward with efforts to pass the police reform bill named after George Floyd, who was killed by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin after he put his knee to Floyd's neck for 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Chauvin's murder trial is currently ongoing. The White House said national civil rights organizations and police unions counseled the administration that a commission was not necessary and was redundant. Biden also called for an investigation into the police officer who shot and killed a 20-year-old black man in a Minneapolis suburb. Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon said the officer who fatally shot Dante Wright shouted "taser" but then fired a handgun instead. Biden said the question is, was it an accident? Was it intentional? That remains to be determined by a full-blown investigation. The police chief said it was his belief that the officer intended to use their taser during a traffic stop, but instead shot Wright with their gun, saying, "This appears to me, from what I viewed, and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge." After the officer fired, she is heard on video saying, "Holy shit, I just shot him." Wright was killed about 10 miles from where George Floyd was killed by Derek Chauvin last year, and hours before the 11th day of Chauvin's murder trial was set to begin. Moving on, the United States administered 4.6 million vaccine doses on Saturday, marking a single-day record. The country has now averaged 3.1 million doses per day over the last week. The U.S. is also reporting 70,000 new coronavirus infections per day on average over the last week, a figure that is above July's peak of 67,000 cases. Michigan's average daily case count has jumped about 7 times since February. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky called on the state to close things down, rebuffing a request from Governor Gretchen Whitmer for the federal government to send more vaccines. Walensky said if we try to vaccinate our way out of what is happening in Michigan, we would be disappointed that it took so long for the vaccine to work to actually have the impact. The answer is not necessarily to give vaccine. The answer to that is to go back to our basics, to shut things down, to flatten the curve, to decrease contact with one another, to test the extent that we have available to contact trace. Moving on, Biden nominated the Tucson police chief to lead Customs and Border Protection. If confirmed, Chris Magnus, a critic of the Trump administration's anti-immigration policies, would be responsible for contending with the biggest increase in migrants arriving at the southwest border in 2 decades. Magnus also opposed efforts to make Tucson a sanctuary city. Biden also said that he intends to nominate Ur Jadot as Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Meanwhile, the Biden Justice Department refused to disclose documents from the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy that separated thousands of migrant families at the U.S. border. The documents, requested by the lawyers representing separated families, include emails between Trump officials and minutes of high-level meetings during the planning of the policy. Among the unreleased documents is the agenda from a May 2018 meeting that included a show of hands vote by Trump officials on whether to separate families. And finally, the United States has admitted 2,050 refugees at the halfway point of this fiscal year, putting the Biden administration on track to accept the fewest number of refugees this year of any modern president, including Trump. 8 weeks ago, Biden promised to reverse Trump-era immigration policies, to rebuild and enhance federal programs to resettle refugees, and to raise the annual cap on refugee admissions to 125,000 for the fiscal year that starts on October 1st, up from Trump's limit of 15,000. Biden, however, has not signed what is known as a presidential determination to make those changes official. At the current pace, and without the reversal of Trump's policies, the Biden administration will admit roughly 4,510 refugees, less than half of the figure admitted in Trump's final year. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.